That's, no, this is mine. All right. Hi, good night. I'm going to try and keep it short because I know you're tired. But at least you've reset your brains. You've heard English and then French and now English again. So I was turned around when you were saying who's working in a startup, who's a UXer. I have two questions before I start. Who identifies as a UX designer? Okay, and you know what a UX designer does because Pauline and Michael have explained it thoroughly, so I will not go there. And who works in a startup? Excellent. Okay, so last night I was in my kitchen in London and I procrastinate a lot. And I figured out I better find out how I would get here tonight, right? So Google is great for maps. But when you're around, Hugo and I were talking about it, the mobile version isn't very user-friendly, at least it spins on me. So I do what every digital person does, and I, went onto Citymapper to make sure that I had the address saved. So when I got off the train, I could just walk through the city and come here. Now, in addition to using Citymapper entirely too much and in too many countries, one of the things that I do too much of is tweeting. And this is a tweet that I sent in November when I was trying to create an account on Citymapper to sync my data from my computer, because I'm one of those that uses Citymapper desktop in addition to mobile, over to my two mobile phones, my personal one and my work one. And Citymapper, I have a laser pointer here that I love to use. Citymapper said, sorry, it's taking so long. Your screen has defeated my thing. So here it says, sorry, it's taking so long. I don't like logging onto website using my social credentials because I'm a bit paranoid, the security risk is too high. So I refuse to sync my data on Citymapper until they implemented email and password login. And it happened. The last update they did, it's this, March 27th, so a few days ago, they finally put email and password, so I finally can log on to Citymapper as I want and sync things between devices. Because I saw that, and because I copied that and I tweeted it, I was on my computer and I said, okay, let me create an account. I have a password manager that kicks in automatically when I am on my computer. Let me log on, let me create an account, and then it'll sync to my devices. Except on desktop, you cannot create an account. You can log in, you have 2 login boxes, but there is no sign up. You can sign up with Facebook, you can sign up with Google+. Anybody uses Google+ anymore? No. But you cannot create an account. Let me see, maybe they forgot to put the label. I clicked on login, and this is what I get. Login with Facebook, login with Google. I cannot sign up. It's a bit silly. So I went on my mobile, and sure enough, I have sign up or login. So I created my account. My password is ... in case you want to go and see what I saved. And finally, they sent me the email confirmation. I clicked on the link. I was able to create an account. And when I saved the address of this place and of the hotel where I'm going to spend the night tonight, I had it saved right there. On desktop, on mobile, I could plan my route and come here. And so I'm here. So Citymapper is a big operation. They're doing amazing work. And I know I'm really picking at the tiniest details, but it bugs me. Because even if I were an edge case, Citymapper should think about me because it's all about me. And for you guys, it's the same thing. It's all about me. That's what users want. So who made Citymapper? Was it a person? Was it 2 persons? Most likely, it was something like this, a team. So this is not the Citymapper team. This is my team. This is my agency. And this in particular was a a retirement party for the lady on the couch who has pink hair, so we all put on pink wigs. And the thing is that as an agency, and this is not even all the people in the agency, we organize in groups. So we have UX, we have design, we have engineering, we have tech, we have QA, except all of these people in the photo and the ones you don't see, these days call themselves product. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're an engineer. It doesn't matter if you're the office manager. You are product. And why are we product? Because it's cool. You know, it's a label. To me, maybe I'm old-fashioned. This is a product. This is something tangible that I can hold in my hand, that I can throw at the end of the room if I get upset. A digital thing is a product in that there is a production cycle, but it's not a physical product yet, because it's cool to be modern. We're all product something, designers, owners, managers, etc., etc. So when I went to school, there wasn't UX school. There was architecture. There wasn't even graphical design. I mean, computers came out when I was a kid. But so when I started working, being a web designer was all the rage. Now, if someone calls any of you web designers, you're like, no, that's not me, right? We tend to organize ourselves around this. XD, which is what I call UX. I reject the label of UX, of user experience, because we cannot design for an experience. We can design for an outcome. So I call it experience design, which is a bit more vague. And this is generally how agencies, at least in the States and in England, organize themselves. There is design, there is business, and there is tech. So all of these product people, where are they? The real product people, you know, per the classical term, are right there, are people that understand us designers. You know, we stomp our feet and we say, no, that's I don't like that shade. We understand the people that say, we need to be profitable. And they understand the engineers who actually want to make things. So if we look at the definition of a product manager, which is the person who is supposed to wrangle all these people in the agency, is the person who manages the entire life cycle, it looks a little bit like this. Here it's called product owner, but it's essentially the same thing. At Friday, we don't have product manager per se. We have product owners, and actually they reside not here, but they're here. They're with strategy and business. But in the general term, a product owner or a product manager deals with management, deals with marketing and sales, deals with the engineers, deals with the Scrum Master if there is an agile team that's formalized, deals with the user and customers, and gets success. I do not see anything here about design. So when the designers that are on my team, or when recruiters come to me and say, do you want to become a product owner? I say no. Because a product owner doesn't do what I do. A product owner, this is a beautiful definition, or a product manager, has the brain of an engineer, so they understand what they're building and how. They have the heart of a designer, but it doesn't say anything about designing. And the speech of a diplomat, because it has to deal with clients and with internal stakeholders. However, more and more, when I interview people to hire, or when I'm out talking to colleagues at other agencies, I get someone telling me, well, but you know, product management really is experience design. And I'm not sure that I agree. We make things, designers do make things. You know, if you think about it, and this is one of the thoughts that keeps me up at night, if you look around yourselves, outside of this plant over here and this plant, everything has been designed. behind every single thing in this room, the clothes you're wearing, this piece of furniture, the rug, the building, behind everything, there is someone who has thought of that thing and someone else who has made it. It's mind-blowing. There is no management in thinking. Nobody can tell you, nobody can manage you in thinking you have to do this and you have to do that. So what is the difference between experience design and product management? Experience design is the practice of designing, and the focus is on the quality of that product and how other people are going to perceive it. Product management, which every startup now seems to need to have, is an organizational life cycle. It deals with planning, forecasting, production. It doesn't say anything about the design activities. And this is not because I'm a separatist. I want everybody to have their own corner. Quite the opposite. I quite like what Michael was talking about, the pairing and the collaboration. I think it's vital to do things. But we're talking about very different activities. And where it doesn't matter, in an agency like where I work, where there are about 80, 90 people, when you are in a startup where you have very few people, how do you choose who is going to make the app that's going to become Citymapper? Is it going to be an engineer? Is it going to be, well, you need an engineer because you need someone to build the thing. Is it going to be a business person? Is it going to be a designer? I argue that at different times you need different things. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this blog called UXPin. They have all sorts of tools. It's uxpin.com, P-I-N. All sorts of tools for UX designers that we use every day. There also Marcin, the guy who runs UXPin, has published recently quite a bit on product design and user experience. And he has produced this really, really interesting illustration that talks about product management and UX designers. And so he says that the experience designer designs UI. I don't know. I'm not really sure about that. We design flows. We design interactions. We design all sorts of things. I can design to save my life. I can tell my team this design looks good or bad, but I cannot design to save my life. But however, we design things. We apply UX design to the product. We study the user, and we experiment and optimizes the product. The product manager does other things. They make sure that the product is in their compass for the product. They say, yes, we thought about this thing. Citymapper allows you to go from point A to point B and to check if the bus is coming through and at what time. Does this product do this? Coordinates all the department, maintains communication with the team, and supports stakeholders and business in administering the budgets. So if we think about Citymapper, I would imagine that because I complained, and many millions of people have complained about the lack of login using email and password, a product manager said, feature, we need that, people are complaining. It got implemented. They have style guides. We were talking about, style guides earlier. So someone was able to make the button, and someone was able to change where it said login to sign up and login. But nobody went back, unless there is a business decision that I'm not aware of. But no UX designer or no experienced person or no whatever you want to call it went back and said, wait a second, what about those users that want to sign up from the web? Nobody did that. So in conjunction, the product team is phenomenal because all the aspects are covered. But if there is a lack of competency, of skills on one side, bad things happen. In the case of Citymapper, again, I am picky. I can show you examples of things where it mattered a bit more. So this is a part of a project that I did when I was in the States at UCLA. And ideally, this was early stages wireframe/prototype for a tool that would allow people that don't have any understanding of or any knowledge of statistical analysis to create their own health statistics. So if someone is a community activist that is fighting for, say, more parks around a school, could go to the tool and demonstrate that, for instance, kids who do not live close to parks had a higher risk for obesity, say. And these are all calculations that you can do, and they're really complicated. The purpose of the tool was to enable anybody to do that. So this was the idea. It was essentially drag and drop, and you could use buttons for accessibility, et cetera, and you would get your results there. Then I left. I moved to London, and I left all my files, all my prototypes, et cetera, and they did not hire anybody to replace me. Not because I'm irreplaceable. They didn't hire anybody to look after UX. The final product launched a couple of months back because in university, public university time, it moves a bit slower. And this is what the product came up to be. So they tell you it's really easy. Select a topic, add a location, visualize your data. Except this is what you see. And then when you need to add further steps, this is what you see. And it piles up in a way that's really bizarre. It's feature rich, but it's really complicated to use. And more importantly, it's really complicated to understand. So in thinking about, this is a bit of an extreme example, but if we want to go to physical products or to the things that we make, because these days we don't just make digital artifacts, more often than not, our digital artifacts plug into or are part of a physical product. The experience, the difference between experience design and product management can be summed up a little bit like this. These are two calculators from the 70s. They both print, which was a big innovation. So Canon created something that was very sturdy, did what it was supposed to do, but the calculations were on this tiny, tiny strip of paper. So imagine being at the store and someone is doing calculation, they give you that, and you squint because you don't see very well. And honestly, it's a bit ugly to see the power brick is a bit big, right? Now, Olivetti in Italy created the same thing, but they invested a lot in design. They had a series of designers. I mean, that calculator is at MoMA in New York, is one of the iconic pieces of design of the 70s. And it's soft, it's silicone, it's beautiful. However, it does the same calculations that one does. It prints on a larger piece of paper, so it's easier to read. However, the silicone breaks after you use it. On that Canon, the keys don't break because it's sturdy plastic. That one, the orange one, has a battery. But the battery life was so poor that nobody really could use it. Nobody could transfer it. So on this side, we have design, we have experience, but the features are so-so. On this side, we have features, but you look at it and you want to cry. Now, a product team, to stay in the theme of calculators, does this. This is phenomenal. It's beautiful. It's inobtrusive because it's in an object that we carry with us every day. Clearly, the technology has changed from the 70s, but the thinking remains there. So the product manager, I imagine that the product manager might have said, the calculator needs to be simple enough that a kid in school can use it, or someone who is at the supermarket or at the market can use it. At the same time, we need to develop a product that is also a scientific calculator, so it will appeal to a different segment of that market. And they managed to put the two products in one. And you can decide what you use depending on what you need. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, and I was showing him these slides. He's head of interaction design at a really big company, agency in London. And he'd never seen that. He had never seen the scientific calculator, and this is someone who designed interactions for really, really well-known brands. The thing is, he never needed to. And what he had to carry on wasn't something really bulky, just in case he did. The experience is so good that it's inobtrusive. If you don't need it, you don't see it. On the other hand, you can have a very simple thing. You have your phone, but wait a second, I'm an engineer. I need to calculate the square root of the percentage of something. Let me turn it and I can do it, right? So, you know, it's all fine and well when you have the resources and the staff to employ both sides, right? So if you could have a product team with everything inside, Pauline was talking about information architects and content strategists and researchers, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're a startup, especially before you get funding or your exit strategy comes to fruition, what are you going to do? Who are you going to choose? You know, if you had to choose, since we say that product managers or product owners and experience designers are the same thing, who are you going to pick? Now, there was last year, my friend Patrick Neiman, who works at Aptio in Seattle, a big consultancy, he did a webinar with this other lady, Stephanie, I can't remember her last name, and it was called Dogs versus Cats, and it was all about product management versus experience design, only they called it user experience. And they came up with this matrix. So essentially they're saying, what are the skills and competencies that a product manager has compared to an experienced designer? So 1 is top priority, 2 is lower priority. And so they're saying, for those who cannot read, that acting as a product owner is product management, understanding the domain and user, product manager, high-level requirement, product manager, user stories, little bit of that. So we're actually at Friday, we're experimenting with implementing Agile the right way. And this is the bit where I agree. User stories belong to everybody. Everybody has to be there when you scope the project. But remember, we're trying to determine who we're hiring if we can only pick one. And then sitemaps, wireframes, and prototypes go to the experience designer, and usability testing goes to the experience designer, thank God. I don't agree with this. I don't agree at all, because if you think about it, acting as a product owner, what does the product owner, product manager does? The product manager ensures that things are on track, but is more focused on the business needs, on the needs of the internal stakeholders. Understanding the domain and the user, how can we design anything? How can we make anything if we do not understand, 1, what the users need, and 2, the ecosystem in which our product is going to exist? UX as a deliverable doesn't exist. If someone comes to you and tells you, I want you to work on this workflow or on this screen or on this interaction, but don't worry about the app does, don't worry who's going to use it, run. Just go away, say no, go away, doesn't matter how much they pay. So my redo of this skill matrix is that actually if you have to pick one, UXers are in charge of understanding the domain and the user, and they have to understand what the high-level requirements are always. So if you're a startup and you're pressed for salary and balance and viability, you probably do want a user experience designer that can act as a product manager if you need it. Later on, when you have more products, more people, more team, the balance is going to shift. I see, for instance, as I get older and as I've moved from delivery to management, I act a lot more as a product manager than as a designer. I make sure that my team can do the things that they need and want to do. I make sure I facilitate. I make sure that they have all the tools, that they have the training, that they have access to clients and information. So I am more of a product manager than but I'll do wireframes if we need to. I'll make prototypes, but that's not what I do. I think that just designers, by their own nature, because we're not just constrained to that little triangle, are a lot more versatile. It's a struggle, because when you're defending the needs of the user as an experience designer, with keeping in mind also what the business objectives, and the two things are not aligned, the tension is really, really hard. You're pulled in both directions. And so, as I said, ideal world, calculator that you can turn, perfect. If you have to choose, if you can only have one, and if you have to choose, what you need to do is pick someone who is obsessed with good design, listen to the users, and champions the culture. And it really doesn't matter what it's called.